Okay.
All
Hi,
right.
Alex. Nice to meet you again. All right. So we'll wait a sec for everyone to come in, I guess. But um, so for everyone watching, Alex and I just had a very great interview, and right at the end, my phone froze and didn't save the interview. It didn't save anything. So we have nothing, which is really unfortunate because it was a very good interview. But
Let's do it again. Let's start from the beginning. We'll power through. I know the answers now. So there we got
you
that.
do know the answer, so it's a little bit cheating, but that's okay.
Okay.
I know everyone who was in here was really enjoying themselves, and you cut out a lot, so maybe they'll hear everything clear this time.
Awesome.
I'll skip the bad jokes, and we could go. So now my laptop won't load the questions, so that's good. So I'll just grab another phone, and I'm just going to read it off my phone because this is what's happening.
This is just
All
one
right.
of the days. It's okay. This is what we do. It's survival of the interview right now.
Yeah, this is a perfect example. So I'll just give a really quick intro again, since this is supposed to be my first episode, and I guess we shot a pilot. It didn't get picked up, so we got to try it again.
Hey.
Okay, so my name, if you're watching this for the first time, is Justin Sarachik. You may know me as the editor of Rapzilla, but you probably don't. You probably know me from right now, and this is my show, Survival of the Artist, and it was a podcast for 2 years. Now I'm going live on Instagram. Right in front of me is Alexz Johnson, very talented actress, singer-songwriter, mom, farmer, and a host of other things. We just spent about an hour talking about really amazing things, and we lost the whole interview. So she was very kind and said, let's just do it again. I don't think anyone in this chat right now is really upset about it, and we'll just focus on some of the better, more important questions, which I previously had in front of me, but now that's not working. So, in your own words, and I asked you this: who are you? What do you do? And what is your claim to fame?
Okay. So I'm an independent singer-songwriter. What was the middle question?
Who are you? What do you do? What is your claim to fame?
Singer-songwriter. I do a lot of things. I do writing. I like writing music. I like I I act. I like I have dreams of having a farm, which I'm working towards. What I'm known for. And I'm a mom. I'm a mom.
Very important.
Which is the most important thing. I'm known for probably So Weird and Instant Star, playing singer-songwriters on those two shows.
Okay, so on this journey of TV and music that you have gone through, did you know as a kid that, this is what I want to aspire to be when I grow up?
I wanted to be a singer. I never thought about acting. It wasn't something that I didn't do theater in elementary school. I sang in choir. I'm from a pretty small town, and I'm one of a lot of kids. And I just went into a local agency, and I said, I want to sing. And he was like, the agent was like, okay. I was so tired of doing all the the fairs in my small town, and I wanted a chance at really my mom and dad were so busy with the other kids in life, and it wasn't like I was pushed out the door to make it happen. It was just I just wanted to sing, and I wanted a chance at I don't even know what I was thinking. Just I loved Celine Dion, I loved Les Mis, I loved musical theater, and he signed me and then started sending me out on auditions, which I didn't even really know what they were at the time. I'm like, an audition, is that? And what led to me starting out my journey wanting to be a singer turned into me doing toy commercials as a kid.
Right, right. Because you could get free toys out of it.
Because I could get free toys out of it, exactly. So I wouldn't turn that down. But then it just ended up, my journey from there just unfolded, and I ended up landing some pretty big acting roles for a kid. It was shocking, and also roles that allowed me to sing and even write music for. Starting was so weird, so that was just like out of the gate. I was just a lucky kid.
Yeah. So you're thrust into season 3 of So Weird. You're playing a singer-songwriter. So you're playing a version of yourself somewhat, but now you're acting it out instead of actually like being that person. So what was that experience like, having that as your first acting gig?
I was so young. I didn't even understand at that age what I was getting into. I was just having so much, and I'm so lucky. And I know you have kids, and I'm so lucky that I was able to be a part of the Disney world and be a young actor and have the protection of the family there to help steer me and guide me. Very lucky for that, because as we know, a lot of musicians, actors who start out that young, sometimes they can be a bit derailed based on some experiences that they have. It's not a perfect stretch for an industry. We haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm lucky in that way.
Okay. For everyone watching, that screaming child is my son, who I think bumped his head or fell down. Yep, I can't mute this. This isn't Zoom. So there we go. This is part of the this is part of the madness of trying to conduct this interview that we've had.
It's life.
It's live TV. Anything can happen.
Exactly.
Okay, so eventually you joined the N Network as the star in Instant Star. So did that show parallel your life, or did you kind of play Jude Harrison as someone that you aspired to be?
Jude Harrison was such an awesome opportunity because I was writing so much music at that time, and I took the offer of the show because they gave me an opportunity to write music for it. And for me, music was a passion for me. Acting was a passion. Acting was fun, and it was exciting, and being able to portray a character was awesome. But really, for me, if I was going to play Jude Harrison, I was like, I want to grow as a writer. I want to be a part of writing music for Jude Harrison. So that ended up being, it was a dream part at that age. It was a dream role. Looking back now as a legitimate musician, when you go to Spotify and you look up Alexz Johnson, the first songs that come up, my most recognized songs, are Jude Harrison songs. Which in the end, something that's such a blessing in my life, it's been an interesting, it just comes with me forever. That TV show, that 4 years of my life will be with me forever as a musician. And the songs that we wrote for Jude was their songs for a character, which is interesting. So I don't know if anybody else has really been in that circumstance in the industry. I know that there's movies that have come out. What's that singer-songwriter video with that actor, Leon Date? Not the Ballad of. There's an awesome movie. If you guys remember what it's called, about a musician, and it's hard to explain, but I don't know if that's happened to many other artists before. Like I had these amazing opportunities to portray these musicians on TV shows, but I'm an actual musician. So after the show ended, I go on to sign a couple major record deals. I go on to work on my own music, and there's always kind of been this push and pull between, but that's not like Jude. People they want to put you in a box. People have a hard time allowing you to grow sometimes and try different things and whatever, but it's not even trying different things because Jude was never me. Jude was a character I was playing, right?
Right.
So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah, it's, in the end, it's been more of a blessing than anything, but it's amazing, the TV world. And it's amazing, too, how many incredible fans I've garnered from that experience, like staying with me and following my journey. And I think especially following my journey after Instant Star. And when I did working on albums and working on my own records and, having them not be able to see the light of day because I was caught in the wheel of the major label industry. I think those fans that followed Jude Harrison were kind of watching her story come to life. It's almost like my experiences kind of mirrored Jude's on the show in some ways. I even went off to London. I even went to go work with, Marius DeVries and Grant Black and, whose dad wrote the James Bond theme. I got some really funny stories, but yeah, I think it's such a blessing because I have these amazing fans who have followed my journey for so long. And I also have, people when I tell them, I do music, and they go, I looked it up, and, How Strong Do You Think I Am is an amazing song. And I'm like, I never wrote that song. That's Jude Harrison's song. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying. Anyway.
Yeah. Do you feel like you in real life are a better musician than the characters you played that were musicians?
Oh my gosh, what a crazy question. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
I had to come up with something original for take two. And then
I am that musician. I mean, yes, do I think I'm a better musician now than Jude was at that time? Yeah, of course, because I'm like, how much older and I've toured how much more and, I've honed my craft, I guess. And will I be better in 10 years? Like 100%. I just think based on age, you gotta have respect there.
Right. So you never had to like dumb yourself down musically to kind of fit the role.
No, which was really cool. I was able to write from the heart for Jude, and I wanted Jude to be as awesome as I could make her. At that time.
And how important to you during those times on So Weird and Instant Star was it that you actually, got to write the songs, sing the songs yourself, and be the creative, like young teenager, amongst a team of writers and other people that they could have brought in? It's like, no, I'm going to take this one myself.
Yeah. It was a huge amount of responsibility, but I was used to that, because I've been acting since I was so young. And I learned, and also discipline from karate. My dad was a karate instructor, and I hated going to karate, and I never wanted to go. And he would make me go. And I'd stand there in my gi and just like want to be anywhere else than on this dojo floor. And my dad and my mom always said to me, it's important to learn discipline. It's important to learn that, like, you have to show up and you have to do things that you don't want to do because it's character. Not saying I didn't want to do, everything I've done. I took it very, very seriously. It was an honor, and it's been an honor to portray these roles and be given an opportunity so young to, so I wanted to kill it. Like, I wanted to be awesome at it, and I didn't want liability for a crew or for producers that believe in me, right? So that's what's been, it's interesting. Good question.
Thank you. So we're talking about, wanting to kill it and doing all that. Demi Lovato said that you were an inspiration to her to go from acting to singing. Nelly Furtado said your song, Look at Those Eyes, was an event. Backstreet Boys covered a song from Instant Star, There's Us. So like hearing that and knowing that, what does that do for you as a musician to have your work appreciated by such big artists?
Yeah, it's very sweet, and it's bittersweet. It's obviously like, I mean, any compliment that anybody gives you is like, thank you so much. Like I'm humbled, and it's the opposite of what I hear all the time. And what I hear all the time on YouTube and on like messages to me is like, I don't understand why you're not bigger.
Yeah.
And I don't get why you're not at the Grammys. I don't understand why you're not being recognized here and here and here and here. And then to be recognized by like these icons, it's, I don't know, is there a word for that? Like it's kind of like, I don't know, let's say Wayne Gretzky, went to school with a hockey player who was doing hockey with him at the same time, at the same place, and then he broke his leg. Gretzky goes off to win the Gold Cup and have this career, this incredible career, and his friend with and he says to his friend with the broken leg, it was because of you, like it was, I learned something. I learned something from you. You taught me a trick, whatever it may be. It's kind of like, yeah, it's humbling, but it's like, it's because it's the counter to everything I hear all the time. If like all the time, when you work so hard as an indie artist and you put out content and you make music and you do it because you love doing it, sometimes it can be a bit of a bummer when people compare you to major artists with the machine behind them, because it's like, it takes a village, right? And even for my music, it takes a village. It's just a different type of village. Like, it takes a team for me to be able to put out content and be able to do what I do. And I know it takes a team for major label, huge artists to do what they do and to play stadiums and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna lie, I would love to play a stadium show. Like that would be amazing. And there's many different avenues, and there's different artists and different experiences that artists have. And I'm an artist who was signed to Capitol Records. I was signed to Sony Records, and I've gotten to make my dream album, and it never got to see the light of day. So for me, yeah, it's a sweet compliment, but it's also kind of like a bummer, because I was working in the studio at the same time. I was in the studio the same time that Annie Lennox was in the studio next door recording a record. So sitting back and watching someone so prolific that you looked up to your whole life be able to release their album, and for me, I don't get to release my first album, was really hard for me to grow from. So at the end of the day, to answer your question, thank you so much. Like, wow, thanks for saying that my music in some way, has inspired you, because it gives me strength to keep going.
Yeah. I'm going to give a lot of credit to whoever your media training person was, because your answers are almost identical.
Oh, really?
Even down to your Wayne Gretzky hockey example. Somebody told me I have to make the hockey joke again. So the joke was, wow, how on brand for a Canadian to bring up Wayne Gretzky and hockey for an example. So you go. So for everyone who watched the first time, we're keeping it. We got to keep it as consistent as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And your connection is super good where you're at right now. Not one problem. Okay. So what would you say is your biggest success in your career or your rock star moment?
Launching my Kickstarter page in 2012, I would say, was for me my biggest like rock star moment, because it wasn't a part that was given to me, or that I auditioned for. It wasn't like being put up on a billboard or having a label executive sign me and say, to a whole team of people, she's the next star. Like, this is good enough. This is what we have to get out there. It was just me from my bedroom in Brooklyn, And I had some friends whisper in my ear, you should really launch a Kickstarter. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I asked my fans to like pre-order an album. Like, I asked them to like support my tour before I go on it, kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, just do it. And I was expecting like,
Yeah.
there's no way, like, no one remembers me from Instant Star. I'm like, I make music, but like, does anybody really care? I was like, I guess. And as soon as I launched it, I not only succeeded, but I doubled overnight, and I was shaking. And
Yeah.
I felt like it was it was a rock star moment for me, because it was like, wow, I need to continue making music. Like, I need to make music and just do exactly what I'm doing directly to my fans, and not screw this up again, not go and sign another deal for 2-3 years, write all this music and then lose the rights to put it out. I need to directly make music for my fans. And that was where like something in my mind was like, I'm going to take my control back. And fans allowed that to happen. So that was my moment.
Good job, fans. I think all those fans are in here right now for the interview. So what would you say is your biggest failure or regret?
My biggest failure? I mean, we all have so many. I'm not somebody who really like focuses on regret. Like I'm very similar to how I like forgive. Like I think I think a good quality that people should have, I think, is forgiveness. And it was something that was learned. I learned it from my parents' relationship. And so in forgiving, you have to forgive yourself, right? So, but I will say that I think I had an opportunity before I put out any music at all to work with David Foster. And my manager at the time was Neil McGonigal, and he had managed Jan Arden, and he's just like, he's awesome. He's a Canadian legend. And I was doing a lot of David Foster Foundation charity events, and one of them was the Wayne Gretzky Foundation that came together, and I did a couple of those, and I would sing with Michael Bublé, and I was singing Celine Dion songs. And this was before Michael Bublé was working with David Foster. It was the beginning of their relationship as a team. And I was approached to work with him, and my mom and my manager at the time, I wanted to write my own music. And I was writing my own music. I was writing a lot of music with my brother. Very similar to Billie Eilish and her brother, like in a bedroom, writing. A lot of those songs ended up being on the Wait album, which are on the Still Alive album. And yeah, so I was like, no, like, I'm going to do my own thing and write my own music and get a deal that feels right. And looking back, I feel like David Foster, he really highlighted the vocals. He really, I mean, my gosh, like, you have to remember at that age, I loved Celine Dion. I was a little girl, and I was like, no, I'm going to go do this thing. And looking back, my career would have taken I would have had such a different beginning. I mean, look at Michael Bublé.
Right.
Okay, sure, like maybe he didn't get to be a part of writing some of those songs, but I'm sure, he's a part of doing that now. So yeah, that's a regret for me that I think of not often, but now that you ask me, there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting, when you ask people this question, because had something in their life like there being such a drastic change, you never know where you'd be at. Like maybe you could be like this crazy big rock star, but maybe you never met your husband, you never had your kid, you never do else. You never know how like changing one thread is going to like unravel other aspects that you love now.
Yeah, and I feel like in some ways, like I've been really protected, and I mean that. Like I think whoever wants to call it, whatever spiritual, whatever gives you strength to survive this world. For me, I feel like God has really protected me in my career and in my life, because who knows if I would have been strong enough to take that type of fame. I don't know. I'm a girl in the middle of a big middle-class family from a small town, and I don't know. I can't say where my life would have gone, like I have my fragilities, and like, so I think to be where I am now, to be putting out music on my own accord, and to have this amazing fan base that like always shows up, and which makes me want to always show up, is just, I wouldn't trade it for anything. where I am now.
Yeah, it's whatever was supposed to happen, happened, and it happened for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't ask you about Final Destination this time, but it reminds me of Final Destination, like when that death was coming for somebody, no matter how they tried to change it, it happened, right? It still happened no matter what they tried to do. So whatever thread you always try to change, you wound up exactly where you needed to be.
That's right.
I'm sorry, you gave like such a nice positive answer, and that was like a morbid Final Destination example. All right, so as your acting career has wound down, now you've been creating like indie pop, singer songwriter music. You've been able to really focus on that and polish, your sound. So have you been able to constantly be able to create the music you've always wanted to, free of any restrictions?
Hmm. There's always going to be. I mean, nothing's perfect, right? Like you're making art, and it's not easy. Like some songs are easy, and it's like, wow, this is exactly what I want it to be. But I've worked with a couple of really amazing, like from, I mean, David Kahn, Mark Howard, Brendan Johnson, obviously, first and foremost. Um, I've gotten to work with some amazing producers, and I've gotten to work with amazing writers, and yeah, it's not ever like a perfect. You always you're striving for the sound that you guys are both kind of like leaning towards, and usually, if it's when it's right, it finds its place, which has been I've been really lucky for that. Like I'm at a place now where I'm able to make the music I want to make, and album to album, like you grow and you change and you try different things, and
Hmm.
it's hard to kind of always be eating the same vanilla ice cream. You know what I mean? Sometimes as a person, you
Yeah.
start, yeah, which is like still alive for me. I really wanted an upbeat, like Euro driven, um, fun album that was just like pop. That's what I wanted to do at least once in my life, like a legit
Yeah.
pop record. And now that I'm, a mom and I'm homesteading and I'm growing in different ways. I'm, in my 30s. I want to do a record it's going to be a different type of record, my next record. It's going to come from my experiences that I've been through and the goods and the bads. And, so I'm just so lucky I have a fan base that follows me throughout all of my different, I don't know, all of my different musical chapters.
Yeah, and you have that still alive. That those songs were made before, obviously before it dropped, but it, like literally dropped right as everything was shutting down for COVID, and you have this whole year of craziness that happens. You have a baby during this year as well, so that next record, whatever it looks like, is going to just reflect on the madness of 2020, or maybe the joy, and because you had plenty of joy during 2020. I think a lot of people have a tough time, with so many people going through something. They're kind of afraid to celebrate those victories or those wins. For you, you had a great victory. You had a child. You brought life into the world. So I can only imagine the kind of like emotional journey that this next project is going to go through.
Hmm. It's hard to find time as a parent. It's hard to find
Hmm.
because I don't think we've seen the repercussions of COVID yet, meaning that,
Right.
it's not as simple as everybody just working from home.
Hmm.
Because when you work from home, you live at work.
Yep.
And when you live at work, it's hard, like I have to, as an artist and as an artist who's constant, like there's so many, I mean, from like Patreon, of course, and then so many other, like I'm writing all the time. I'm writing new material. I'm learning Logic. I want to be able to learn how to track myself and send it off and be able to eventually produce. Like I'm not aiming to be but enough where I can, send it off and get the help that I need to do stuff. I'm doing that. But at the end of the day, I'm a mom. And like when I'm in a world that's so social media and people posting, I'm very like, when I come through the door, if it's not a day that I'm working, where it's like, this is my work day, and I delegate those out, delegate and dedicate those hours towards my work, I'll just put my phone in a cookie jar, because when I'm playing with my daughter, I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be taking video, and I just want to be disconnected from it because I want to be present with my daughter. And being a musician and being, you have to constantly be working at that, because it's not as easy as I'm making it sound. Because I'll be playing with my daughter and I'll have a song idea come into my head, and I'm like, oh, I got to get my guitar. I'm like, well, no, I'm like at a park with okay, just we'll write it down, and then I'm missing a moment. I'm missing her. It's not like, it's actually not even healthy or safe. So as a mom, I can't just like create. It's like, and I think maybe musicians don't talk about that often. Obviously I get the help that I need to get, which is awesome, but I'm also her mom, right? So she's my first priority, and then next I would say is creating. So that being said, I'm working on new material. I'm excited for this next record. I'm excited for a couple different things I'm planning that I really want to do, that I'm excited for, and all that stuff's happening on Patreon. Like I'm going to be unfolding these, Easter eggs on Patreon. Patreon's my first priority now, because as a label, Lady Spencer Music, like these are the fans that are like coming to my shows. Right. These are the fans who are standing in line, waiting outside in the cold to come to my show and to get like their VIP package and their merchandise and their signed stuff and their discounts and stories. And they're getting all that stuff there. So anyways, very long right now.
No, it's fine. I get it. I watch my kids until about 3 p.m. every day while my wife is working from home, and then she takes over, and then I work until midnight or whatever.
Wow.
But I'm an editor, and news and stories are happening all throughout the day. So I'm getting messages, and I'm like this with my kids, and then my son is climbing on the table, and then my daughter's like sticking her hand in like peanut butter or chocolate or whatever, and I'm trying to be like, all right, team, do this, and it's crazy. I get it. Like the cookie jar thing wouldn't work for me because my kids would just be reaching for my phone because they're always trying to steal a cookie.
There you go.
But, exactly. So now I'll just put it on top of the fridge because I'm the only one tall enough to get it. So what would Jude Harrison be doing with herself now?
I think she'd
about 15 years later.
I think she'd probably have her own label, be signing artists, and I think she would be doing music still, but I think she would be a judge on Instant Star.
Perfect.
And probably being like a mentor to like a younger musician.
Yeah. Perfect. So now what would you say is the key to the survival of the artist in this musical climate of 2021?
Survival of the artist. You have to start, you can't gain your drive and your confidence, and you can't compare yourself to other artists that have the village. Meaning, those artists that you look at every day, that you hear all the time on the radio, they're just people just like you. And the difference is that they have an entire infrastructure built in place to help promote that artist, to help that artist get to and be exactly where they are. You matter just as much as any other artist. What you have to say has a place. And you have to look at it and understand that, like, when I put out a record, I'm not thinking, ooh, how many people are going to be listening to this record? I'm thinking, I'm really proud of this record. And if anybody stumbles upon this record and shares this record, this is something that exists in time forever out there. When I'm gone one day, this is a stamp of my creativity, of my art, and it feeds my soul. And I feel like people don't create because their expectation is not realistic. Just remember, like these artists that you look at, They don't happen overnight. Leonard Cohen didn't just put out a record and I'm Leonard Cohen. Like, this takes years and years of creating from an authentic place. And I feel like, do you have to be in it for the right reasons? Because if you're not in it for the right reasons and you end up getting it, it's going to destroy you. You're not going to have any foundation to be able to even deal with what's coming at you, because
Right.
I don't believe that humans are supposed to be worshipped. I don't believe we know how to be worshipped. At the height of my success, like in my life, being let's say, okay, lead of a TV show, signed with Sony Records, it didn't add anything to my confidence. In fact, when I would tell people that, I would go red. Like, it's like, is this real? Like,
Yeah.
what a lucky girl I am. But at the end of the day, remember, there's a lot of pressure. It's never what you think it is looking up. It's never what you think it is looking at people in the industry. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare your art, and just make it come from the right place, and you'll survive. Because if I was coming from the wrong place, I would have given up a long time ago. I would have been like, this is the second record deal. I would have been like, this is like enough.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore. Why am I making music? Like, obviously it's not good enough. Obviously, like, it's not happening for me. But I was like, no, I love making music. I love making music. And nobody who knows me and nobody who loves me in my world told me to stop. And I'd be like, why isn't anybody telling me to quit? Like, why is nobody telling me to stop? And everyone's like, because we can't. Like, it's you. It's who you are. Like, it doesn't matter what ends up happening. So, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, just definitely, your kids are watching you. Your friends are watching you. What you do is important. You have an impact on people around you. And if we all just focused, even in agriculture, in our communities, in our music community, if we all just focused on our communities and what we can bring to the table in our community, the world would be a better place.
Absolutely.
Instead of looking at the leaders and looking at the top people and going, we need this to happen, we need that to happen. That's all so controlled. There's so many pieces to that puzzle. There's so many puppets and pawns that if you can focus on, which got us into farming, a different conversation, but just having control over your art, having control over your world, and giving back to your community, I think, is the most important thing. And then you'll be okay. Your art will survive.
Yeah, and it gives what you're doing purpose too. Then, sometimes, and I guess you can speak to this much more than I can, but like, success is fleeting, right? But if you have the ability to impact somebody's life in a profound way, even if it's like a really small thing. And I'm seeing these comments in here, people, your music, helped me out of depression. You're my favorite artist ever. You helped me get through a rough time. Just seeing the comments in here. I mean, if you can help that one person, right, from a life-changing or altering decision that they might make, I mean, it's worth it, right?
It is. And I think sometimes you have to really listen and be quiet and still with yourself and really listen to what is calling you, right? Like, I feel like music was calling me. And the messages that I get from people, it's like, and I'm talking like I've said before, like you just said, and I said, it's not about the collective, it's about the person. And if I could change one person's day or make someone like step off from the ledge or like just be a positive voice for somebody, then that's my calling. I've been called on this earth to do that. And I'm going to continue to do that until I don't have a voice anymore. And that's not going to happen. And if that does happen, then I don't know, I'll write my lyrics on chicken eggs and send those out to people.
Inspirational chicken eggs. You can feed your mind and your actual body. So really? Perfect. If that becomes a thing, I'll just take 2%, marketing on that for the help on the ending. Okay. So all right. So the last thing, what do you have to plug? Coming up, anything exciting? Let the people know.
Exciting is right now my Patreon community. I released an album this time last year called Still Alive. And that album's been a huge labor of love. I wasn't able to tour it, so you want to see live streams, you want to see me play, join Patreon. $5 a month gets you live streams, and everything after that is just extra, like getting, throwbacks from my career, demo downloads, exclusive merchandise, specifically only to crew members on Patreon. And it's evolving and growing, and I'm constantly changing it. Like I'm constantly like, as I grow and as I change, like it's been really cool having um, it's just such a great platform for artists in these times. To be an artist who is touring and putting out music, to be told that you can't do that, to be able to continue to survive and be inspired and be able to have this platform has been a huge gift for me. And I know other artists too. So that's happening. That's been super fun. Yeah, just working on new music, and I'll be posting snippets and behind the scenes of that process. It's taking, like I was saying earlier, being a parent, I have to settle into that, right? Like I've only been a mom for a year, and I'm every day getting stronger and growing and learning how to, my creative brain, how to just put things away for a moment, because I'm a very passionate person about what I do. And it's been a challenge, but it's been also like, I feel like it's just making my music better, because I'm like, when I'm in the mode, I'm in the mode. You know what I mean? It's like,
I know what you mean.
I'm in it now. Like nothing can
Yep.
take me away. And you feel like it's a privilege to have time. So yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I have a couple surprises coming this next couple months. I have a couple surprises that I'm going to be releasing. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, I've been working on a couple little things on the side. So
Okay, I'll take that. So everyone, I know we were supposed to ask questions. Last time I hit the question button, my phone gave out. So we're not going to do that. But you could sign up to her Patreon and you could ask her questions. That's one of the features on there.
yeah.
And you can get those answers. I know I asked her a bunch of questions now, and she answered some of them for the third time. So, especially one about regret. You have to talk about that 3 times. But thank you so much for your time, for being super gracious enough to do it again. You were actually perfect this time as far as connection. So that worked out great. Most of the same people that were in the first one are now in the second one. So your fans are the realest and the best, as I told you before.
They're the best. I know.
Not one hater in the bunch.
No.
There's always one hater. You didn't have a single one. So
No.
shout out to the fans. Shout out to you, Alexz Johnson. Thank you for running the gauntlet of survival of the artist twice. The only person ever done it twice. What a way to kick off a season. And I can't wait to see what you have next. Everybody, give Alexz a follow. You probably already are, but support her. Support her. She's awesome.
Still alive. New album. All merchandise in store. Check it out.
I had a drink here. I probably threw it in frustration, but there you go.
Cheers. Cheers to this working, and good luck with this awesome idea, man, for a podcast. I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that I could be here for it, for the first one.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Later.
Get
Bye.
back to that baby.
Yeah, I know. Where is she? See you later.
All right, see ya. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. This was the first episode of Survival of the Artist. Again, special shout out to Alexz Johnson for doing this twice. The first time there were so many technical difficulties, and then my phone crashed, and I lost the whole interview. There was a couple of things that you may have missed that we talked about the first time that we didn't cover the second time. But this was the real meaty, important stuff. Alexz, as I said, your fans are amazing. Everybody in here, so awesome. If you want to see more great interviews and different things coming, follow me right here. I just did an interview with Ian Flynn, a comic book writer for Sonic the Hedgehog for the last 15 years. I have some actors coming up, some other artists. I have a food page called Plated by Dads. So if you are a dad and watching this, or you know a dad who's really good in the kitchen, chefing it up, owns a restaurant, whatever, tell them to send some food pics to that page and I will post them. Shout out to everybody who is in here. Thanks for sticking around and watching. Peace.